Hi there and welcome back to the channel. I'm the GCSE science teacher, and in today's video we're going to be learning about covalent bonding. We previously did a video on ionic bonding and ionic compounds, so I'll link those in the cards above if you are interested. But like I say, this is a fundamental topic, so if you do find it helpful, feel free to share it with someone else you think would also benefit from learning more. And join us here on YouTube by subscribing, comment down below if there's anything you want me to cover, and like it if you do. You can also find more helpful resources for GCSE biology, chemistry, and physics on my TikTok and Instagram, where I post regularly on Instagram and daily on TikTok. So let's get started. What is a covalent bond? Well, it's a strong bond which forms from a shared pair of electrons between two non-metal atoms. Remember that the bond is strong. It's strong because there is that affinity, that strength is due to the electrons being shared by two atoms. You can also think of it in this way, that the atoms actually want to be stable, and that's why they're sharing those electrons. And you can see in the diagrams below that the dots and crosses that you see in between the atoms, those are the electrons, and they are the valence electrons, the ones that are in the outside shell, which actually determine the chemistry of the atom. So, how do you know if it's a metal? How do you know if it's a non-metal? What would you do in the exam if you weren't sure? Well, you're given a periodic table in the exam, and also just in class as well. You should have a periodic table whenever you do these sorts of things. Most of the elements actually in the periodic table are metals. There's only a very small few that are non-metals. And you can see that by the ones I've highlighted. So the hydrogen, I know, is on the left-hand side on this diagram here. Hydrogen sometimes is just floating around in the middle as well, but it is a non-metal. And it's the same with all of the elements that are on the right hand side, so where the staircase is. So you've got things like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, chlorine. These are some of the more common ones you'll use at GCSE. But it's worth knowing that they're always on the right hand side, and the left is all lots of metals. They've got the big D block in the middle, which is the transition metals, for example. You've got alkali metals on the left, group 2 elements that are also metals. So if you're unsure in the exam, always just remember that the right hand side is where the non-metals are. And if you see any of those symbols that are bonded together, then you'll be like, okay, that's definitely got to be a covalent bond if you're not sure. So, how do we represent covalent bonds? Well, you're given different ways of doing this. So, you could have the formula. So, for example, if we're talking about hydrochloric acid, right, it's an acid that you may have used in class before, you may have talked about. Its formula is HCl. It's the same acid we find in our stomach, for example. The formula shows us that there's one hydrogen bonded to one chlorine molecule, or one chlorine atom, I should say. And you can see that we've got the dot and cross diagram shown. We've got a chlorine atom and a hydrogen. You can see that shared pair of electrons with the dots and crosses that are there. And that shows you that dot and cross, that is the electrons, and the sharing of them is the covalent bond that forms. And the displayed structure, you can see you've got the hydrogen dash Cl, which is chlorine. The dash represents the bond, and you can see that in that diagram there. It's the same with methane, okay? CH4, it's a greenhouse gas. You can see that there are 4 covalent bonds that form here. One of the key ones to know is actually carbon. Carbon has the ability to form 4 covalent bonds. So if you ever are drawing out a long displayed structure, you have to draw quite, like, let's say we're talking about organic chemistry and you have to draw out butane or methane or something like that. Maybe not methane because it's quite small, but let's say propane, for example. If you accidentally draw it incorrectly, you can just check how many bonds you have. So carbon will always create 4 covalent bonds. And speaking of, this is often where students get caught out, is not understanding that covalent bonds can also mean double bonds or triple bonds. Especially if you're doing triple science, be aware of this, especially, or even if you're doing high combined, you could get asked in organic chemistry classes about double and triple bonds. Remember that carbon can make 4 covalent bonds. So in the case of carbon dioxide, you have 1 carbon atom and 2 oxygen atoms. You can see that the dots and crosses, you've actually got 2 covalent bonds per oxygen atom here, and that's why you get a double bond. And it's all to do with the chemistry of that atom. I won't go into it at this point, it's not necessarily needed at this stage, but it's worth being aware that there is such a thing as a double bond and a triple bond. At GCSE, triple bonds are more talking about nitrogen. So nitrogen gas, you can see here you have two nitrogen atoms and they are triple bonded covalent bonds. Those electrons, there are three pairs of electrons that have formed and are shared there. So I thought I'd mention that now as well. If you have other questions about it, just comment below and I'm more than happy to explain further in another video. But for now, that was it. A very short video just to help you with covalent bonding. If you did find it helpful, feel free to like, comment down below anything you need help with. I'm more than happy to make videos specifically for you if you need that. You can also, like I said, find me on Instagram and TikTok if you want more content. So feel free to join us over on there as well. And until next time, have a great day. I've been the GCSE science teacher and you have been curious. Take care. Bye.